Hi everybody, I'm Caroline from Cote, and today we are joined by the lovely Marissa and Dan, who got married here at Cote just 2 months ago. So, hi Marissa and Dan, how are you feeling today?
Hi, great. Thanks very much, Caroline. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling quite
Brilliant.
warm and cozy.
Now, the purpose of today is that Marissa and Dan have kindly agreed to come on here to share a few of their experiences about Cote, but not just Cote, also about their wedding planning journey, the process, how they went about things, a little bit about, the constraints. And the whole purpose of this really is to help our lovely couples make some decisions themselves about their own wedding planning journey. So, Marissa and Dan, whoever wants to go first, tell us a little bit about yourselves, how long you've been together, how you got engaged, well, when you got engaged, and then really what started your wedding planning journey.
So we've been together for nearly 10 years now. We fell in love with Disney at the time, and I
Did
popped the
you pop
question
the
up.
question in Disney?
We did.
I did,
We
yes.
did
Oh,
the
Yeah.
Disney things, which, for me, growing up, I never had the chance to go to Disney World. And I think when me and Dan met, we were at the age of 22. So we were at that age where we'd kind of gone through our teenage years, but with going to university and college, etc., we did felt like we've not fully lived our childhood.
True.
So we kind of did that a little bit together, went on a few travels. And I think me and Dan were very opposites in some ways, but we've always had the same values. And I think we met very simply in a coffee shop, and that stayed a running theme throughout our relationship. So we really love like small, intimate, cozy places anyway. So
yeah.
that stayed a running theme, hasn't it, throughout our time together?
Yeah, definitely. Pop the
How soon
question.
after you pop in the question then, Dan? How soon after did you
Uh,
actually physically start thinking about weddings? Did you have like a sort of an engagement period and then not do anything at that point, or did you go straight into it?
So what we decided to do first, like a lot of couples, is to create a bit of an engagement party. Because for us, we always had at the back of the mind we might elope or have a really small wedding. So we would just want to be mindful, actually, if we had a little get together with family soon after getting engaged, and at least we could have our family there with us about 4 months after we got engaged, which gave us enough time for it to sink in. And in the background, we were always kind of thinking, how are we going to plan our wedding? However, it was in the midst of COVID, just before our engagement party, they announced there might be a lockdown. So we just managed to have it in time. So naturally, our wedding plans halted, or at least our future plan halted just because of the environment. But we still were talking about the things that we would like. And given the climate, literally, of people isolating themselves and other people just naturally eloping because of the COVID situation, it just became even more appealing to us as well.
Oh,
Yes,
fine. And did you have any worries at that point when you two were thinking, right, really ideally, we'd love to elope or have a tiny wedding? Did
definitely.
that pose any problems for you guys?
I just really, for me, and I think Marissa as well, I think it was just very much, we just wanted to celebrate our life together. And as a benefit to bring some people very close to us within that, and to see how much we very much love one another.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we
Did
didn't
you get
have
any pushbacks from anybody with your decisions, do you think?
to be honest, we did a little bit, and that was
Hmm.
some of the worry that we had in our
Yeah.
mind, because I think what Dan's also trying to say is that because we're quite close with some members of our family, we knew that they would feel very much maybe let down or just sad that they couldn't be a part of like our special day. And we actually don't have big families on either side. So in essence, we don't probably have as much pressure as some people might feel if they've got lots of extended family, people around that they're around a lot of the time. But for us, I think there was that concern that some people, particularly maybe like mum and dad, would feel sad if they weren't there. So that's why we did consider actually a smaller wedding would still be appropriate while still keeping the idea of elopement in mind. But there's also that worry of friends, and I don't think people talk about the friendship side enough when it comes to planning a wedding, because for us, actually, some of our friends feel closer than some of our family members, just
Yeah.
in terms of how much we see them, how much they know about us as a couple. And you talk to your friends about things that you might not talk to your family about. And because when you're invited to a friend's wedding, instantly places that pressure or expectation that when you get married, they will equally invite you or you'll invite them to your wedding. So for us, navigating that for some people was brilliant and they were fully supportive. However, not everybody, I won't say unsupportive, but you could tell that it was a hard conversation to navigate, and there was some sadness there. I won't say resentment or anger, but just it's sometimes really difficult conversation to have with the people that you love and care about, whether it's family or friends, to say, actually, we might be doing something that's one of the most special days of our life without you, if they've expected to do things for you at your wedding and be part of that.
Tell me, how did you manage those expectations? I know that you've mentioned that you had an engagement party. Were you already setting the seeds at that point to say to people, look, we're actually probably going to elope? And then people knew kind of what to expect.
Yes. So a little tip for that I have is, so my mum is probably great to talk in terms of the entire family. So she was like the little bluebird to go around and say, oh, you know, we're having an engagement party. Oh, isn't it so nice we can all to get together? And oh, isn't it great? Because actually, what if Marissa and Dan decided to elope? At least we've all got together.
Nice.
And, you know, we made a point of having pictures with everybody there and making them feel involved. And we're not big party people, are we?
No.
So it was really kind of low key, nice and relaxed. And we had a chance to speak with everybody. And just there, we were planting little seeds like, oh, me and Dan would quite love to go away to get married, because it brings up the question of marriage. So we were already planting like little seeds, so we didn't have to drop a bomb on everybody and say, by the way, me and Dan have just got married and you weren't invited.
Oh, that is such a great way of doing it. And actually, you've just, given me that other idea that we do, sometimes is it easier if you're having what we class as a destination wedding, i.e. a wedding not at home.
Yes.
Sometimes that can make it a little bit easier, can't it, to say, actually, we're having a really tiny wedding because we're going away somewhere not near home. So a destination wedding, therefore, people always would assume that that's going to be a small wedding anyway. So that was great.
Well, people know, even friends who, you know, were a little bit apprehensive of us eloping because they loved the idea of a big wedding and felt we would regret having a smaller wedding, which we haven't regretted. But
You've never regretted it, have you?
It was scared for us, really. I can understand where the concern came from. But because they know us so well, they know how much we love nature and we love the idea of doing something really just between us.
Yeah.
In the end, they really knew that fitted with our identity as a couple. So actually, sometimes your friends and family knowing you really well is helpful, because in the end, no matter how much pushback you might feel they have, often that comes from a place of love, but also just sadness. And I think sometimes when you plan a wedding, you almost have to feel that you got to hold other people's emotions. And that's another pressure, I think, some brides.
It is a huge pressure, isn't it? Now, you mentioned your mum. That's a great tip. Now, just having somebody on your side to actually do all of that, planting the seeds, is a fantastic idea, isn't it? So whether it's your mum, whether it's your best friend, whether it's whoever, if you've got somebody on your side that can actually do that little elfing behind the scenes, that's a great little tip, isn't it? To just set people's expectations so that you don't feel that pressure. Because, you don't want to be feeling that pressure, do you? You've got enough on your plate trying to figure out where you're going to get married. So you've already... Sorry.
She's like our little secret agent.
Yeah, secret agent. That's a great way of describing your mum. She's fabulous, isn't she? So we've already decided then that we're going to have a small and intimate wedding. And COVID's hit, so you now put your plans on hold for a little while. So tell me then, what's the next step? When did you sort of come out of that thought process and say, right, we're going to have to start doing? And what was the first things that you had to do in order to start moving your wedding plans forward?
We said, right, we may as well use this as an opportunity to look around a few wedding fairs and get a feeler for what getting married's really like. And to be honest, we thought, we'll write a few things down, like the types of venues we're looking for. And for us, we thought things like cottage, relaxed, nature, views.
We were trying to think of places which resonate with us, I think, which is a really key idea. We wanted somewhere which probably felt like very much like our second home, or somewhere which would make a long-lasting memory, rather than, for me, I just wanted something, as you say, the lakes, or maybe abroad somewhere where you can it just makes it that extra special.
You can go back to it as well.
You can go back to it.
Our favourite places are York and the Lake District. But York, for us, it felt more of like a townhousey vibe, kind of more Georgian historic, which we love, but we felt that we wouldn't be able to feel immersed in nature there as much as we would the Lake District. So that was important. However, all of the wedding fairs that we went to often advertise this kind of lavish lifestyle, this kind of unrealistic expectation that you're going to get married somewhere like a castle and have, you know, a jet stream of flowers, you know, coming out of your wedding dress, and everything would just be absolutely incredible. And I think maybe with the job that I work in, I can sometimes sense that inauthenticity. Not that it's from the brands in particular, but just knowing that actually that level of expectation is really unrealistic. And I felt that pressure in a really negative way in my gut. And we often went away from wedding fairs feeling a bit sickly rather than excited. Does that make sense?
I felt like it was very much a show, which, as you say, putting on a show. And as we were saying,
it wasn't you.
It wasn't us, no. So, and we wanted something a little bit more intimate, which was us. And obviously our love for the lakes, and thinking about comparisons with places like York and other places around the UK, weather is very different here in the UK. Unpredictable, non-guarantee. Within the lakes, compared to probably the possibility of a York wedding, is York, in its rain and its own little magic as well, can feel very depressed and a bit gloomy, depressed. But when any type of weather happens in the lakes, it's acceptable. It's magical.
Really,
it feels more like it's immersed
rather than feeling like, oh, it's raining today. Actually, you're able to appreciate the rain.
It brings like life and things like that, and it just shows like how nature actually is. And I think
more interesting skies. You get more interesting cloud formations. It's lovely.
Even looking at the mountains and the hills, and you're seeing those different, like it's got so much character, and this is where we probably stumbled on the actual venue.
Okay.
And this is where, during COVID, obviously having these more times, more people getting out a little bit more, and the lakes being quite accessible for us, we took a first walk to the Rydal Caves. We obviously love Grasmere and Ambleside, and we wanted to venture to new little destinations around there. And we took taking the route up to the little Rydal Caves, and then we accidentally stumbled upon your gate, and
I actually said, "Oh, I'd love to live somewhere like that." Actually, it just looks exactly where I'd love to live. Exactly, kind of my vibe. We've got a white house ourselves, actually, interestingly, and it's kind of based on a cottage, and we bought that, before we knew we were getting married. So I was like, oh, that really is a home from home. That's it. If I had the opportunity to live somewhere like that, or, just be so immersed in nature, like where Cote Howe is based. I love that.
And you was mesmerised, obviously, by the views, the house itself, and you're definitely very country-esque cottage type, and it was the perfect. It was the perfect place.
From picking up a leaflet, going on a lovely romantic walk around Rydal Caves and Rydal Water, picking up a leaflet, going home, making that inquiry, and coming to visit us. Tell me, how did you feel when you walked through the gate this time? How did it make you feel? And what was your experience when you first came to Cote Howe? What did it feel like?
I just felt very at ease, and like my body relaxed because I felt just so calm. I just felt as though I knew this would definitely be a location where I would get married, or at least see myself with my family, and I could envision it there. And I hadn't experienced that with any other place that I'd walked into. And the only way I can describe it in relation to is when we found our house. Sometimes when you just see, I knew as soon as it came up on Rightmove, I knew that we had to have that house. And luckily when we stepped inside, it kind of still resonated, because sometimes that's not always the case.
But I could tell Marissa liked it because she got very giddy. So when she gets very giddy, it's a very good sign.
I know, actually, I do know what you mean by giddy.
Yeah.
So it's all about the energy, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Energy within the place. And did you know, you may not know, I may not have even told you, Cote Howe, I mean, I've been here for 20 years. as you know. And prior to us doing weddings, which have been for at least the last 10, 11 years, prior to that, it was a B&B, a rundown B&B when we took it over. But we ran it as a organic B&B, a bit of a luxury B&B, to be fair, with an organic tea room. And we had so many visitors coming through and so many B&B repeat visitors who were so enthralled with the way the place felt because it felt so homely. They just didn't want to go home. And then there's a lot of people that gravitate to places like this because of the energy. And so over the years, I've learned quite a lot about Cote Howe. And one person did incite me to say, did you know that Cote Howe sits on two converging ley lines? Which is very, very special in terms of energy. So I knew nothing about ley lines, and I don't profess to know anything about ley lines other than it was always a good omen to be somewhere where there was that warmth and energy, and you couldn't really explain it. Then another person said to me when looking out through the window one day, oh, and the river flows towards you, bringing the energy in rather than taking it away. And I just thought, oh, wow, that makes sense. And then it was like walking around the rooms, it's like other people would say, well, you know, I'm into feng shui and that is just wonderful. Look at that. Double aspect windows and this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, wow. You know, so there's been a lot of things and a lot of history in the place that make it so warm. And people would say to me, oh, Caroline, we've got to come back for more B&B because it's the only place that he relaxes and sleeps. You know, and it's so wonderful here. It's so quiet and it's so private and it's so dark and the birds and the natural, everything comes together. But you can't get that from a website, can you? You don't get that feel. You don't get that energy. So I get what you're saying.
I think it's funny because I'm guessing Dan's laughing inside a little bit because I used to be very much into things like ley lines and crystals.
Did you?
And while my job's very scientific, I'm quite open-minded and quite used to be quite into things like feng shui. So that is really interesting. But
Wow.
also it's funny because I always think for a house that's set in the countryside, I often wonder whether when people look to place a house, I mean, now you'll look for where like pipes are located, etc. But back in those times, you'd look for things like resources, how the area felt, did it feel safe? Did it have a nice view? You'd be more in touch with your biological instincts when you were building a house in such a location. So I think, yeah, that's quite fascinating to hear.
And also the name Cote Howe derives from the words shelter being a coat, as in a dovecote. So it's a shelter on a howe, which is a hill. So it's always going to be a place of shelter. And of course, it used to be a lookout, a Roman lookout post. And you can still see remnants of it in the house. So there is so much history. And interestingly enough, have you been watching Wolf Hall? I've started watching the first series, right? Because everybody's telling me how great it is. So I'm trying to do catch up. And I'm intrigued because it starts in 1529. And I'm like, this house was built in 1535. So we're just getting to the point now in 1533 where Anne Boleyn is now taken to the throne. And to see what they're wearing and how they talk and, you know, some of these lovely buildings and the trades and what goes on in those days, trying to imagine, because now obviously in the 21st century, it's very different. However, the house has seen so much. It's unbelievable to think about all of that history. And I do think that adds to the essence or the heart and soul of the house. And that is something you can't actually capture.
And that's exactly like it's magic. It's like it's got so much history. And you're thinking for a venue that you want to be at, where it could just be your generic, bog standard business type, this has got so much history, and we are now being part of that history and that magic moment of the ley lines. Marissa's favourite, it's the tea rooms as well.
I know, when I found that out, I was like, okay, we have to get married here because I am the tea lady. I'm drinking a coffee at the moment, but my friends always say, well, you should just set up a tea room, Marissa. You should just have your own coffee shop. I mean, it's ironic we met in a coffee shop, but yeah, I think I knew that. I think there's something behind the scenes here going on to make me get married here.
And that's why Cote Howe is very special. And that's why we loved it so much when you was telling us about its history, the ley lines, the stream coming towards Cote Howe and its name and how long it's been there. And it's got Tudor aspects to it as well, you've told us. And we were just very much like, whoa, this is
looking at each
so
other,
cool.
didn't we? We hadn't had that experience before.
Yeah.
We just knew, and when we went home from our first visit, we were just very much excited, and I couldn't stop looking at all of I probably read all the blogs on the website, to be honest, Caroline. I probably couldn't stop looking at them or showing my mum pictures, and she was like, Marissa, she probably was like, Marissa, don't get carried away, you know, I just couldn't help myself. I was just genuinely really excited, and you were as well.
very much so.
And also, we've talked a lot about the history and the feel of Cote. What about the location? Was the location, you've talked about the Lake District versus York, but also, what about, these different venues that you were looking at, comparing venues? How important was the actual location and what we have here in terms of views, lake, that kind of thing, all those things that you
Well,
might want to do on your wedding day?
the location was so ideal. It comes straight off the road, which takes you directly through the lakes. So honestly, location-wise, ideal. It's into one of the most stunning areas within the lakes. You've got Grasmere just around the corner, Ambleside, which we've stayed plenty of times and we always keep going back.
Always go
And
back there, don't we?
always go back. There's plenty of walks. There's plenty of locations in terms of accommodations, which are
Easy for your
even,
guests.
yeah, easy
Yeah.
for the guests. And accessibility there is brilliant. And the taxi services are brilliant as well within
And
the
don't
area.
forget the spas as well, because I'm
Yeah.
quite a big fan of spa trips. And we knew that if we got married, we'd love to have a day afterwards where we could have a really lovely spa. And we knew that we're just spoilt for choice. We could do a long walk, we could have a nice spa, we could really look after ourselves. And I'm really, really passionate about self-care. So I knew that when I got married, I'd need that retreat time to focus and reflect and be in our own little bubble. And I knew I wouldn't get that from a city or even somewhat a beach holiday. I really like the English weather. I can hate it sometimes, but I think, regardless of what time of year you get married in the lakes and your location has that, ability for couples to go off together and walk and explore. And I think that's a really important thing that couples can do after their wedding, to be together and reflect on all the special moments they had, rather than getting caught up in all of the flurry of blur that goes on a lot of people's wedding day, being with friends and family, next day feeling really tired, then getting drawn off into doing another event or planning your honeymoon, and not really spending time to just allow the moment to settle.
I know when we're doing planning with couples, we often ask not just about the wedding day, because for us, it's really important that the whole wedding time that you're going to spend in the Lake District, whether it's 2 nights or whether it's a whole week or even more, how are you going to plan that time? What you're going to be doing beforehand, how you want to be getting settled and feeling in the right frame of mind, ready for your wedding day, and then what you're going to do afterwards, how you're going to spend some time together as a couple so that you can genuinely connect and say, wow, we've just done this, and spend a bit of quality time together. And then, keep your mini moon in the Lake District if you wanted to, just as a couple, or like you guys did with just a few very select friends and family.
And we, as you say, I think for many people that do go to the lakes, and it is a hot spot for this UK to everyone go to the lakes, it's just ideal. And you also, what the nice thing about it is, rather than probably going to abroad for an elopement wedding, you kind of feel like you're already in a home and safe, warm place, which you already know, and you've got your exciting walks to venture off the next day. And as you say, it's brilliant as well for dogs, and you can bring your dog along and get some shots with him as well, which is incredible.
Could you sum up then, very, very briefly, any advice that you might give to other wedding couples on the search for their venue specifically? What kind of things would you tell them to look out for? Or maybe what kind of things would you advise people from your own experience to avoid?
Well, I would say for a couple looking to get married in their ideal location is to think about what's your personality as a person and an individual, like what reflects who you are. Like, if you're honest with yourself, is it a really big, grand, opulent location that's really big? Because I think sometimes that can feel really overwhelming. And I think a lot of brides do comment on, actually, on my wedding day, you feel quite overwhelmed as it is. So I think if you want to feel safe and calm on your wedding day, a venue that is big enough, but also containing, allows you to feel naturally safe and as though you've got support around you, like a bit of a fortress, but also somewhere that emulates warmth. Something that feels trustful as well, like with Cote. I think going somewhere where you can actually feel like you can speak to the vendors, because I think your own gut is a really good gauge when you're speaking with someone of how comfortable you feel in their presence. So for some people you might speak to, you might feel that that person's quite authoritative. You might not be able to bring up your own concerns or questions. Whereas at Cote, I think for us, we felt very much at ease. We could laugh with them, which
Yeah.
is a good sign for me, because I think if I'm laughing with someone, I feel at ease, and I know if I do have any questions, I won't be so scared to ask. Also with a venue, I'd definitely say look for somewhere that there's like a really clear line of communication. So some venues might say, right, okay, this is the plan, sign here on this dotted line. You sort out everything. Whereas I think actually a venue should have a really clear idea on what good local suppliers there are. And, because they need to know the area, their location really well. And for us, Cote Howe ticked all of those boxes. They knew themselves, they knew the area, they specialised with a lot of really high quality suppliers. So it put us at ease instantly.
Yeah, I
So you
think as
felt
you
you
said,
could trust them and trust their judgment and their experience.
I think what's also brilliant, I think as you say as a couple, and I think you're trying to look for something yourselves, I think look for what both of your needs are, and what suits you the most. And as you say, Cote House suited us the most. And with trying to pick obviously the perfect wedding planner, such as yourself and Rachel, you were very much, what was really key is you were very your communication was excellent throughout. You did your step-by-step program, which really put us at ease. You had, and you knew your own suppliers, your photographers, which took a lot of pressure off us. And it was very key to know, oh, no, perfect. No one has to bring a cake. You know, Caroline and Rachel have got it. No one has to, here's a selection of photographers that know the location well. And it was very good that actually used a lot of like local, it's a sense of community as well within that venue, which we absolutely loved. That you knew your florist, your cake maker, and your photographers, and you all worked as a team, and it was really lovely. And just it completely put us at ease, and you gave us very good advice step by step on what next to do. And
wasn't overwhelming, was it?
Yeah, I've heard from other wedding planners, it's as you say, it's very much they just pretty much see you on the day, whereas you very much, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to discuss what's your needs, and you very much welcome us to come to the house again, and we can we can talk about ideas and get to know you guys, and it was like very much like good friends looking after our wedding, and it was very much put at ease, and it was absolutely wonderful. So
it's not just about the venue, is it? It's about the staff experience, and how trusting you can be in, because you're putting, probably one of the most important days of your life in somebody's hands, and to be able to trust those people that are advising you, and getting to know those people and them getting to know you, so that you knew when it came to your wedding day that they really understood you as a couple, what you needed, and actually would be able to maybe flex things knowing that that's going to suit you better, rather than being prescriptive or lack of communication. So it's good to hear. It's really good to hear. And the portal as well that we do use here at Cote Howe. Did you realise any of this planning service and the portal, the use of all of the documents, all being there available for you online? Did you realise any of that was going to be as important as it ended up being when you were actually looking at the venues?
You know what? No, I didn't actually think that was a process anyone would offer. I just thought we'd be left to deal with all of the organisation elements. And I found what was brilliant about the portal, so being able to go on together and tick off the things that we just needed to do, like whether that's booking registrars, paying a certain amount of deposit. We knew that we could access that portal and look exactly where we were. Because in the busyness of life, you might be planning a wedding, but you're also managing your life and your family and your home. Like for us, we would often go on the portal either after work, or we'd sometimes take it to a coffee shop and we'd fill little bits in together. And even though we both knew that, I could sign on the dotted line where we needed to in certain parts without Dan, actually it brought us together during our wedding process. It was something we could do together. We knew that tick, 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 it's done. Oh, in a few weeks' time, we might need to go and plan our music. We know the deadline of that. And there was loads of things on your website to guide us with how we choose the right florist, how we choose the right photographer. And given that often wedding planners go, right, you go and find your supplier. People don't realise that actually having a multitude of decisions to make is really stressful. The human mind doesn't like a lot of options. It benefits from a good handful of great quality options you can choose from, because then you won't have indecision overload and that fear of regret. Well, we know we could trust from the wedding planning portal. These are the options. We fully trust that all of these are great options. All we need to do is choose a few of them and follow the guidance. And not one point did we feel like really overwhelmed by anything, apart from trying to find like the songs we liked from a playlist.
Yeah,
that
true.
probably took us the longest amount of time, but
really did.
that was just something we decided to just spend more time doing.
Do you know, we talk about music so much, and it's always the last thing that couples do on their checklist. So on your digital checklist that, as you say, you can fill in at any time of day or night, it's really convenient for you to do. It's always the last thing is the music. And I think people underestimate how difficult it is to actually get wedding appropriate music and lyrics, because you might well have some beautiful love songs, but a lot of them are quite sad.
They are. We actually chose quite a sad, well, relatively sad song, you could say, for our aisle song, but it elicits the emotion within us that we wanted. But the acoustic version elicits a very different emotion than the actual verbal music. So
Yeah.
we probably spent hours and hours and hours trying to find the right song that would feel right for walking down the aisle, or the ones that we wanted guests to listen to.
It wasn't Tom Jones' Sex Bomb, don't worry.
What did you walk down the aisle to?
It was Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Which in essence can feel like a really sad song, and people interpret it in different ways. But for me, I always feel emotional listening to that song. I don't know why. It was actually on yesterday in a shop.
Was
and
it?
my mum said to the shop owner, "Oh, this was the song she had for a wedding music." And I just started to cry, and I said, "I'm so sorry," to the shop owner. It still makes me feel emotional.
Evokes emotion.
I wanted that because it's still special. That music allows
Absolutely.
you to imprint a memory, doesn't it?
No, I teared up on the day, so.
And I think as well, having your own backing music that's in line with your own, style, if you like, the genres that you like, is really important. And you can't really, I mean, some couples will say, oh, I'm not too worried about music, but we don't often say, it's quite surprising when you walk through that front door and you're feeling a little nervous on the day. Having some familiar music just playing around in the background can really set the scene and put you at ease, especially if it's familiar music. What you don't want is music that you hate or music that you jar. It's like if Steve had plinky plonky jazz, he would not be happy. He'd be very happy with rock, don't get me wrong. But, music can set the mood, can't it? It can set everything in place. And we've seen some amazing and very varied choices when it comes to wedding music. But yeah, I think it's really important. So I do often say to my couples, don't overlook this thing, music. It is really important. So that's quite interesting little chat.
You're right, because we have so many more senses than just our visual. A lot of people might just focus on the visual of their wedding, but you've also got things like smell. And what do you like your wedding perfume to be? What smell would you like to remember? Or how would you like to feel? Even like the touch of your dress, how would you like that to feel? And people don't think of all the other senses that go into a day and how your body will interpret what happened. Because often visual, when you're very anxious, your visual processing goes a little bit so you might not actually take in all the things you might want to. If you've got all the things to rely on, like your music or your sense of smell or taste that you want to experience, you actually make it a bit more of a multifaceted day that you can remember a lot more.
And those lovely candles.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
We do love our candles here at Cote, and as you know, I make them all. So we recycle any old candle wax that goes back in the pan, and we add to that obviously some new soya wax that goes back in the pan, and we add to that some lovely scent, which is the blueberry and jasmine, which is absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, often people come in and they just love the smell of Cote. So we do actually gift you a little present to take home with you to remember that lovely smell. And of course, on your wedding day, wasn't it chilly? We ended up with a lovely log fire too. So you've got those smells all and the crackling of the fire going on as well as the candles.
But we had that contrast between super sunny but really cold. But I always wanted the fire to be lit. Obviously I wouldn't have asked for it to be lit if it was warm. but it felt like it just all worked out for the
Yeah.
better. And actually, that one of my favourite memories was sitting by the fire and eating my wedding cake with Dan.
Well, I think, as you said, you got to know us. This is what I think was perfect. So personally, you got to know us and what we really wanted, and the fire's
And a
on
cup
there
of
because
tea.
we know Marissa gets cold, and the cup of tea which you
Vintage
brought me.
china.
Yeah, you have to have the
Oh,
yeah.
That's the best part of wedding day, not getting married to you. Have a nice cup of tea and when I was really cold.
Yeah.
No, obviously you couldn't
Thanks.
for getting married.
Warming by the fire. So reflecting back then on your wedding day, before your wedding day, what were your biggest worries? And did they actually come to fruition on the day, or did they actually pale into insignificance?
I think we felt so relaxed. I think because it was. I think we knew everything was being done by yourselves, and it was just very much all we had to do was turn up, which was
it
crazy when you hear about people. Other people must be panicking when getting married, but
I thought
we didn't feel anything at all. I think
my worry was I was maybe going to have a panic attack before getting married because I used to struggle a lot with anxiety. And so when people kept telling me, oh, planning a wedding's really stressful, are you all right? Oh, I bet you're stuck in the depths of wedding planning. And because I never felt like that, I felt like I was waiting for something to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that was nothing on Cote. I think it's just the social expectation of a wedding.
Yeah.
And the day before my wedding, I was like, actually, I'm feeling really calm. I thought the day before my wedding and actually on my wedding day, I'd wake up and it would hit me.
Yeah.
And I would have that panic. And I because I didn't, I felt really happy and relaxed. And I felt that I'm proud that me and Dan in the end made the decision and decided to stick to our guns with exactly the type of wedding we wanted, regardless of other people's viewpoints or suggestions. Because I don't think we would have had the day that we would have had.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I felt very comfortable as well because probably my mum and dad not being together and probably not spoken for so long. It's kind of I didn't have any of those worries because I think you and Rachel as yourself know how to deal with these situations, and I felt I didn't have any worries. I just kind of the end. Everyone was mixing, mingling, and I think it put the same perspective into them that this is a special day and all those things can be put aside, and how warming and close knit and caring it really was.
I think
It
that's
was
one of the
lovely to
biggest
be.
benefits, isn't it, of a small micro wedding that you had, a tiny micro wedding. For us as well as wedding planners and wedding hosts, it's great because we know who everybody is and we can hone in on, and we actually know from chatting to you guys what we think maybe you might worry a little bit about. And so it's quite easy for Rachel and I to like step in there. And actually, people are quite impressed. We know them by name because we can kind of figure out who's who. And of course, we'd already met your mum, Marissa, beforehand. So it was lovely on the day that you actually knew everybody's names, because when you have little weddings like that, we can sort of really hone in on who's who and where they sit in the family. And that really helps us to be able to, host you in hopefully a better way so that, we can look after everybody. Because when you're away with your photographer, it's us that are sitting with your family, chin wagging and having a little chat, making sure that they've got drinks, making sure they're warm enough, and keeping that energy flowing so that there's never a dull moment in a wedding here. So yeah, that's really nice.
And it was like, as you say, compared to big weddings, it's like a little checklist. You've got to check people. Have you said hello to your second cousins, your far distant relatives? Like, I've got to check for these. And I was like, no, it's very much like you could spend more time with your family. And them themselves, I think, probably felt more, how do you put it? It was kind of like more, part of the wedding where someone you can go to weddings and as a guest and they'll be like, seeing them for a couple of minutes and then that's it. And like we're just watching what goes on,
We've
sort of
been
thing.
to a lot of weddings where it has felt like that, even as a guest. That even like your bestest of friends getting married, and that you might literally just get a few words with them. And genuinely, the guest, I think most guests, if they're honest, would say, "I'd really just prefer the couple to have a good time and be with one another and their family," because otherwise it just becomes more like a charade of people that you're ticking off to speak to rather than being in the moment. And for us, because we had
obligation to work the room, isn't it?
Was so much, and we felt on our actual wedding day, it felt like us with our family rather than you're off there, I'm off here. We were together. And it felt just like a homely, like everyone just gathered around our house and we could chat with ease because we had other people like yourselves navigating the room and conversations and
But
chatting
also,
that.
you knew each other intimately, and you didn't need to do that catching up, that awkward catching up. Like, they know what you
No,
do for a job, they know
Yeah.
where you went on holiday, they know what your favorite food is. You don't
Mhm.
have to sort of backtrack. Oh, I haven't seen you for 5 years. What have you been up to?
yeah.
So everybody is present in the moment, aren't they, of
Oh,
that wedding?
Yeah. One of my biggest tips I was going to say, actually, in hindsight, was arranging a family meal the night before,
Right?
or couples could do it a couple of nights before. So if you've got a family traveling up, staying over the night before your wedding,
Yeah.
having that night before for people to break the ice if they've not met for a few weeks or months or never met, then people can get that short form conversation awkwardness out the way. So when they come to your wedding, they don't have to worry about, talking about the weather or how's so and so doing, or actually they're just there for you. And everyone I found, even though there might be that awkwardness at the family meal initially, that ice had broken.
That's
So
a
when they're
good
actually
tip.
at your wedding,
Yeah.
A very good tip. Really good tip.
That's a
So
good
you
moment.
can understand then the night before where the family politics might be, who's
Mhm.
doing what, all that catching up. And yeah, it's a great idea. Great idea. Did you get any feedback from your guests? What was the guest experience like, and how did they compare it to other weddings?
They was over the moon with the actual venue. They actually felt it was a stunning place to get married, and not just guests, but also showing people who I work with and people who I'm like friends with as well. They were just like, wow, what a beautiful place to get married. Like you're in the heart of the lakes, you can see the valleys, the views, the lakes, the venue, and obviously we got married outside as well in the barn area, which just is kind of like one of those magical moments probably quite a lot of people would love to do. And
so many
it's just
people
like,
said to
yeah,
me, my mum said to me, and my dad said, you picked the right
you
venue,
pick the
girl.
right venue, yeah.
Oh,
That was so you and Dan, and they had a great time.
Yeah.
And my brother said, "Oh, I loved being there. I'd loved seeing you." He got a bit emotional. They just felt so relaxed. He said they felt they could just be comfortable. They enjoyed the cake. They didn't want to leave. And some of our family enjoyed the Lake District a little bit longer. They stayed overnight.
They did, yeah.
They got to have some intimate family time together, like your mum and sister. And in essence, that's all we wanted. We wanted it to be a time where people can also make a memory of their own, separate from our wedding if need be. But
yeah.
honestly, people loved it. And for all the people we showed, they'd like, you know what, I secretly, they always said, oh, I had a big wedding. I would have loved to have done what you'd done.
Exactly.
And honestly, most people have said that
All
to
people
me.
say that.
I wished I'd done it that way.
And
Yeah.
my mum usually picks holidays to Greece, and now she's thinking of going to the lakes.
Oh,
So
fabulous. Another convert.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, converted.
Yeah.
So thinking about it, you got married outside the barn, didn't you? Which was
Yeah.
We
absolutely
did, yeah.
wonderful. What were the reasons? Why did you choose outside the barn in particular, as opposed to any of the indoor ceremony spaces?
Well, I am right. Okay, I'm a hybrid person, so I love the outdoors, but not when it's torrential weather. But I felt if I was going to get married outdoors and the weather would allow, I love to feel like really immersed in nature, just to
Right.
be able to see it because it makes me feel at ease. And I think you couldn't wish for anything better for like you to be in such a special moment and for it to be encapsulated in such a stunning setting. And for some reason, when I saw Cote House, particularly one of the pictures that you had, like the painting that I've got behind me that you could probably see on your website anyway, I always just imagined us getting married outside. I'm not sure what it was. That's how I saw it in my mind's
I was the
eye.
same as well.
And I'm not sure why, because I love both of your indoor wedding settings as well. Those are equally very much aligned with who we are, like the room with the piano in it, the room with the clock in it, and how that's set up, even the design and
The
styling.
interior was really lovely inside as well.
And again, that's why I love your getting ready room, because it's very Art Deco and I'm very much into that era. Like the whole entire house has so many different areas that are very much like the things that we're into. But at the end of the day, for some reason, we both envisioned getting married in the barn.
We definitely did. I think we wanted to be outside within nature, and how much we love the lakes being outside as well.
And
Fabulous.
you can do both because you can always then go inside like we did and have that intimacy there. So you get the best of both worlds.
It's like going for your 90-minute walk up and coming back down to the pub or like the nice cozy little coffee shop after it all. So
Absolutely. Fabulous. I was going to ask, but I think I know the answer. Is there anything at all that you would have changed in terms of like from planning is on your wedding day itself? Did it meet all of your expectations, or is there anything you would have done slightly differently?
It met all of them and more.
Yeah, honestly.
The only thing we would have done is spent longer in the Lake District if we could have done.
Yeah. Just extended it a little bit longer. So how long did you stay in the lakes?
We stayed for an extra 2 days, haven't we?
Afterwards. And how many days before?
So we stayed a night before our wedding day, the day of our wedding, and the day after. So in essence, we stayed the Wednesday night, the Thursday night, and the Friday night. But I would just recommend definitely stay a bit longer. We booked a spa trip. I definitely recommend doing something like that. Go on a nice walk, even if it means you get drenched like we did, but it was still great. Stay as long as you can is my only advice.
Okay, cool. So tell us a little bit about your experience with Dapper Dogs, because aren't they wonderful?
Absolutely fantastic. I wasn't expecting the level of care and detail they offered, and I was such an unexpected, most special part of the day to see Otto looked after and to be brought on site and have pictures with us at a really special time. We will treasure those pictures forever. I didn't realise how emotional they would make me feel. Just how well Nigel and his wife look after their dogs. Dogs just seem to love him.
Yeah.
Like from the moment that they see him, that's magical in itself. And we just knew giving Otto to anybody else other than family just wouldn't have been the right option for us.
Yeah.
And so in the end, choosing their team was so invaluable, and we could just feel at ease on the day. So he was a very pampered pooch. So if anyone does have a dog who's just very much as part of their family as their mum or dad or other children, I would recommend that if you can do it. And Dapper Dogs were the perfect team. And they do offer a few other little special bits that I won't ruin or give away, but
you had a good time, didn't you?
You did.
Yeah. Nigel is like a dog whisperer. He has got that. He's magical with the animals, isn't he? I've seen so many dogs, and honestly, they've only got eyes for Nigel because he is. And so, any worries that you might have about your dog missing you, think again. No. Your dog is not going to miss you.
Really, he didn't even look back hardly, did he?
He said, right, I'm off again. I'm off with Nigel. That allows you to be present in the moment of your wedding. You can focus on the two of you, not worry about Otto, knowing that Otto is well looked after, and he was brought in here just after the ceremony, wasn't he, by Nigel, so that you could go down to the lake and have your photographs taken with him. And what fantastic photos did we get?
You're the star of the show, mister.
Yeah, and then you could go and have another little walk afterwards with Nigel. And of course, you had the lovely Jenna as your wedding photographer. And how did you find Jenna?
Oh, absolutely perfect.
Yes.
She was so relaxed, got some of the most amazing images and captured some like extra special moments I wouldn't have even thought that were there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't notice everything on the day.
Yeah.
And her stylization of photographs were exactly suited to us, that kind of muted tone style. But all of the photographers that you've chosen who really know your venue are really good quality. So I think, looking for photographers, it was a breeze for us because we just had to choose some people who already know your venue really well.
Yeah.
That's really important as well. And it can be overlooked because when you've only got a limited amount of time, so if you're having a micro wedding and you're not having a full day wedding, you're having a short wedding, that timing is crucial. You do need somebody who knows the lay of the land. They know what to do in the different weather situations. They know where the sun might be, where the shadows might be. They know all the best places to get the best backdrops. So I think, our recommended photographers are absolutely fantastic. And I'm so pleased. Your photographs from Jenna are just amazing. What were the key things then that looking back, you might well say to any other couple thinking about setting out on their wedding journey today? What would you say to them were the key things to keep, the most important things that they should keep in mind?
I would say, honestly, trust your heart's decision. So when you go to a venue and you feel yourself light up, and even if you know that it's something that your family and friends might not like as much as you, or because we all live around people who love us but might not necessarily like the same things, and that's okay. I would say trust your instincts, whether that's about how or somewhere else, and honor that. You know, if you want a big wedding, do that. If you want something more intimate, go for it, because you will be pressed no matter what your decision is. You know, you will be questioned why you're doing certain things on your wedding, because it's a big topic of a conversation for lots of people and friends. So I'd say no matter how much you're pressed about your decision or maneuver to try and make you think something different in relation to what someone else wants for you, trust that you know yourself best. Your body knows best is one of my mantras. You will feel where the right venue is for you, just like your partner. You know, you wouldn't over question or think your relationship. So it's the same with a wedding venue. When you know that you go into the right wedding venue together, you'll both feel it. And I don't think you'll probably know that feeling until you walk into that somewhere. And that could be Cote, it could be somewhere else, but trust that and stay strong with your decision and feeling.
Yeah, that is really, really good advice. Because I do feel that, I know from speaking to couples myself, couples can feel a little bit of pressure. And like you say, you'd started out, hadn't you, thinking about you would like to elope, but then you listened, and I think it's really important. And I always say to people, even if you don't decide to do that, listening to people and making them feel listened to, you know, taking on board what people's opinions are, if they're important people to you, of course, but also feeling like they're being listened to, but then still making the decision that suits the two of you, making sure that you two stick together and that you come to a joint decision that suits you both as a couple, and that you don't feel that either one of you is compromising. Although you thought you were going to elope, you still had a micro wedding, you still had a small handful of family. And like you say, my daughter's getting married next year. She doesn't want to elope and she doesn't want a small wedding, so she's not going to get married at Cote Howe. Cote Howe isn't right for her, and I respect that. She's getting married somewhere bigger and she's having over 100 people at her wedding, you know, and I'm thinking, right, well, we'll just manage those expectations, and that's what you need to do, because everybody is different. And I think it's about respecting other people's differences and, you know, allowing people to make their own decisions. Thinking about Cote Howe, what 3 words would you use to describe Cote Howe?
I'll go first. Magical.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to say ethereal, which is different to magical. It feels like you could be anywhere. You could be somewhere in like a mythical environment, but equally you could be set back in time and history. It has that essence of like almost a fairy whimsical nature, but also being very like sturdy, as though like an old family historic home in the English countryside would be. So it's kind of neither here nor there. It could be anywhere. And I think that's really, really, really lovely.
I guess it's timeless then, isn't it, really? The setting is timeless. And a 3rd word between you?
Probably more homely.
Homely, yeah. Homely, yeah.
Homely. It's just how we've always felt being there. Like we could have happily stayed there for a longer period of time and set up shop and felt like that was our home. And our family also said to us, they felt very at home there, especially when you walk through the gate, you close the gate, you feel very much looked after, as though someone's like really cared for you.
It's like warm and welcoming. You was very much like, come in, let's get the cup of tea on, kettle on. Like it's just like, yeah, put the fire on.
How are you?
We're cozy.
No other venues asked us that or offered us that level of intimacy and care.
No.
And that was one of the main decisions why we went for yourselves as well.
And I think for yourselves as well, how much care and love you take into your own venue. It's something I think people should look for. It's just like a craftsman or a craftsperson, and how much care and attention they take within their own venue comes across so special, and it's not like any other place. It really is.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. And you know, I love this place. And yes, I've only been here for 20 years, and in the 500 years that it's been standing. But you know, I feel like a sense of responsibility. And also, I feel like the place loves me too. You know, I feel a part of it, like I'm responsible for it, but only for a short period of time. But oh my word, I love it. And the whole point of me doing weddings, because I was in the wedding industry for many years as a wedding dress designer before coming to the Lake District. And I used to sit here and think, do you know what? This place is just underused. It needs more people and more love. And that's why we ended up opening up as a wedding venue so that we could actually have those magical moments and offer this place to other people, because it needed to be seen, it needed to be felt, and it needed to be loved. And hopefully that comes across, that we ooze that warmth, but it's the house itself has got this wonderful quality about it. And I think, yeah, the passion comes through, hopefully. And the connection, the people connection is really, really important. It's a feeling between people, and you have to have that connection and that love between those people and really want to do your very best for them. And so our ethos is always, always to go that extra mile. Always, if there's a little tweak that we can do that we know that couple will love, that is something we're definitely going to do, because we would want that on our own wedding days. And I always say to people, with my hand on heart, this is something I would do on my wedding day. I've lived here for 20 years. I can help out people that want to come to the Lake District, but are a little bit worried, shall we say, of where to stay, what to do, where to park, how this is going to work. The logistics, I know it's not sexy and it's not necessarily the most interesting thing, but it's the root cause of all of the worry. And if I can put myself in my couple's position and actually say to them, if it was me, and I'm traveling up from Manchester, this is what I would do. Now, you can choose to do that or not, or I could give you a few different options, but I really do feel it's really important that I do that journey with them and think about them, put myself in their shoes. How am I going to feel packing that car? What do I not need to bring? What can I do for you to make that easier for you? And that's what we hopefully try to do with all of our wedding planning. So I am so pleased, because it feels like that comes across.
And and you did that. Yes.
And even if now, I think we've both said this, haven't we? Even if we had all the wealth in the world and could buy any wedding venue anywhere in the world, and we had the opportunity to get married again, we would still choose the same place and still do exactly what we did. Because we don't think, even if you have a smaller wedding, like, love's a really big emotion. It fills a room, and you don't need some people, 200, 300 guests to do that. You have your small, really intimate family members. They will give you all the love you ever need. In fact, just you two will give you all the love you ever need, and the people who care about the venue, you will really feel that. And at the end of the day, if we're all honest, that's all that really matters.
Exactly.
And for us, we were really honoured that we got to have our moment there with you, and I don't regret it one bit. It still makes me feel a bit emotional now.
That's lovely. That is really lovely. So what you've been sharing with us is gold dust for other couples be starting out on their wedding journey. So hopefully people watching this will get a lot from it too. We've talked about all of your experiences from the moment you got engaged, right the way through to your wedding planning, right the way through to your wedding day itself. And not only that, what you did in and around the Lake District for the whole week of your wedding. We love keeping in touch with you. So we will keep in touch, and there will be more to come, because I know, Marissa, you've written us a beautiful blog. So we will be looking forward to getting the blog on the website too. And we will be putting some snippets of this video on our website, just so that other people can learn from your experience, which you've been so, so giving and so thoughtful in all of your answers. It's been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to let you go and enjoy the rest of your day. You look after yourselves as you obviously do. You're a lovely, lovely couple, and I'm so thankful that you came. Really am.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you and your team as well. We couldn't wish for a better day. So thanks for allowing us the opportunity to share it as well.
You're very, very welcome.
Thanks so much for looking after us, and you've been an absolutely special part of our day in our life as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Take care, guys.